What's going on, everybody? Hopefully, you're all doing well and having yourselves a very fantastic Sunday. I am here with my boy JC, man, and this guy is one of my best friends. He loves to talk to me about the Birds. He loves to talk to me about the Philadelphia 76ers. And I'm doing a 12-hour live stream today, and I could use some time to just chill. And so I thought, let's make this a little bit pre-recorded. And let's just try to get JJ off the mic, even though he's still on the mic, just not currently in this moment in time. What's up, JC? How you feeling? What's up?
JJ, let's do a Birds chant. Eagles!
Let's go!
Let's get this week going off right, man.
What'd you say?
There we go. Let's get this week going off right. You know we had to start it with an Eagles chant.
Okay, so I have to tell you something. So I finally got play-by-play with JJ as I got it filed as a business, right? And so I chose a bank, right? And so I got my first paycheck.
Ooh.
And I had to go all out, okay? As soon as I got the paycheck, I had to get the A.J. Brown, the Devontae Smith jersey. I had to get the Saquon Barkley Super Bowl 59 jersey. I had to get this. And I got myself another Eagles hat. And so probably $400 later, here we are, man.
And it's all worth it. That's a beautiful hoodie.
Oh, I appreciate it, dude. I have literally probably worn the you-know-what out of this. I've had it for like a week, and I've been wearing it I'd say like 4 times ever since I got it. I love this. I love it. It totally fits me.
Yeah.
But I'll be even more happier wearing this stuff if we end up getting a win on Sunday. And so I first and foremost want to get a vibe check with you because we're recording this on Thursday. This is February 6th, right after NBA trade deadline, 7:49 p.m. Eastern time. Thoughts about going into this game before kickoff starts at 6:30?
Well, this has just been the longest week of my life, man. I just need 6:30 on Sunday to come around. Like, let's just get us to game time, man. Like, all my classes, it feels like they're going for 3 hours. I love the content we're getting at Media Day week, but it's just dragging out. And I just need it to be Sunday. And honestly, man, I've never felt more confident about it. A championship game and all the 3 that we've been in.
I've been hearing so much from sports talk radio hosts and from YouTubers this week about how this is the best Eagles team, arguably, that's ever been assembled. And from a talent perspective, I can understand why people are saying that, but I feel like that in order for you to be the best, you got to get the job done. And I'm feeling pretty confident going into Sunday. I am. But what are your takes about that?
In terms of it being the most talented, I would 100% say this is the most talented defense by far in my lifetime. I'm ready to say that as much as I love LaShawn McCoy, I'm ready to say that Saquon Barkley is a better player.
Oh, he is.
And it doesn't, the names, like when they assembled the dream team with Vic and McCoy and Jackson and Macklin, those probably had the bigger names in terms of how people think in the history books. Our offense has just been so effective this year. I've never seen a run game this dominant in all my years watching football. And I don't care that we don't have a guy like Patrick Mahomes. Hurts is a winner, and he gets the job done. And I don't care how the stats look, and he doesn't care how the stats look, and he doesn't even care about his legacy. All he cares about is winning. And I just think this team is so locked in. I think the locker room vibes are the same as 2017. And this group is just so connected and so in sync. And I just don't I just don't see how we can lose this game.
I'm a big fan of numbers. I like stats. I understand that stats don't lie, but they also don't tell the full truth either. And also, I do believe that while stats are great, you got to watch the game with your two eyeballs. I've said that for a very long time, ever since I've been a sports fan. But I bring this up because on a scale from 1 to 10, I know that you said that you're feeling really confident. 1, not feeling confident at all, which I know you're not going to say, but 10 feeling very confident. Where are you number wise?
I'm at an 8 where I feel like this is destiny.
Wow.
I feel like this is destiny, but but being the 8 and not the 10 is just because they have a top 5. They have a top 5 coach of all time, and personally, I think in terms of pure skill level, he hasn't reached Brady with the championships. But personally, besides Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes is the best pure thrower of the football I've ever seen. So you just can't count them out, and that's why it's at an 8. But I truly feel this is destiny this year. I don't think they're magic.
I'm gonna one up you. I'm gonna one up you because I literally am at a 9. I literally have. It's been so hard for me to get behind this team for the first 7-8 weeks. I thought that they were pretenders. I wasn't calling them contenders, and they have shut me the you-know-what up. Every week, I mean, my gosh, this is probably the last time I will ever talk about the NFC Championship game before the big game comes up. But that was the most complete football win that the Eagles have had in a very long time. That was the most dominant football game from start to finish that I've seen. As soon as Saquon Barkley took off on that first drive that the Eagles had, I said that the game's over. 66 yards, man. He's special. He's special.
I just think it is a fact. It's the most dominant win. The most points ever scored in an AFC or NFC championship. Our team is in the history books forever for that.
Absolutely.
No one's been able to put up that much firepower and that many points on offense.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah, you're 1000% right. I've never, and it's funny because usually, and I've been saying this to so many people, you usually associate records to how great the quarterback has been playing. The quarterback, you and I might disagree, but we can certainly say without a doubt that the way that this offense, the way that their identity has been is through the ground. It's been through the running game. And Saquon Barkley has been, and the offensive line, we got to give them their flowers too. But Saquon Barkley has been he's been the face of this team this year.
Absolutely. Like I said, he's better than McCoy in just one season of being with us. I never thought I would say that.
No.
I think this offensive line goes down as maybe the greatest of all time. I just they're pancake blocking dudes left and right. They're getting to the second level. For these guys' size, to have the speed that they have, these dudes being 6'7" and 6'8" and over 300 pounds, and to get to the second level and block and block downfield for Saquon the way they do, they're keeping stride for stride with him.
I'm watching A.J. Brown as a blocker out there making 3 blocks during one of his runs. My gosh.
And that's the way a team is bought in. When they're blocking and they don't care about getting the ball. When the receivers are blocking downfield, that's when a team is bought in.
So I want to dive into this, and there's a couple. There's actually a game that I want to play with you a little bit later, and it's where we're going through the 53-man roster, and we're saying, okay, which players are better, And like we'll just like compare like different positions, that type of stuff, and we'll go by all right, who has the advantage here, or like is this nullified, like whatever. But as for now, okay, I want to talk a little bit about this offense because when you look at Kellen Moore and what he's been able to do during this postseason so far, I thought that he had his best game against the Commanders. I was really annoyed with Kellen Moore when Jalen Hurts specifically was dropping back in the end zone and he got tackled for a safety against the LA Rams. And I never thought that play call should have been called. But I thought in the last game specifically, he looked very good out there as an offensive coordinator. When you're facing the Kansas City Chiefs and you're going up against McDuffie, you're going up against Chris Jones, Nick Bolton, and some of these other really great players, what are you going to have to do offensively speaking when you go into the ground game and in the air game?
Well, in terms of the air game, I think they've really simplified things for Jalen. They're doing a lot of quick crossing routes over the middle to Devontae. Uh, he's not going longer. He's getting yards after the catch, but the routes are only 5 to 7 yards, right through the middle of the field. Last week they just were able to block downfield for Goddard on a lot of screens. They even used him in jet motion, which I never thought I would see with the tight end. That was incredibly creative. And they're getting Hurts to throw on the run. They're getting him outside of the pocket and throwing on the run to the sidelines where he likes to operate.
Yep.
I think one thing I really like about their offense, Jalen favors throwing towards the sidelines than over the middle. So they do a lot of comeback routes where they're faking for a deep ball, and then Devontae or AJ make a turn and come back to the ball. I think that's been very effective on their offense, and it's created a lot of separation on their routes.
I have to agree with you on that. I also feel like as well that some of these play calls, like when they went for it on 4th and 5, did I think that they should have went for it there? No. But that pass that Jalen had to AJ was beautiful, and the play call itself was really sensational.
And I'm glad to see that back in our offense because personally, I think Jalen's one of the best throwers of the deep ball or the go ball in the NFL. And that was the only play I've seen where they've really taken a shot this playoffs. And I would like to see more of that because he did it in the Super Bowl. He threw a crazy bomb to A.J. Brown, who was covered by 2 defenders, and threw it in the absolute perfect spot right by the pylon.
I remember that. I do. I remember that. So you're saying that when you're going up against McDuffie and when you're going up against these guys, they have to try to utilize the sidelines a little bit more for Jalen Hurts because that's a part of his game. And for them to get Dallas Goedert involved in the jet sweeps and in the jet motions and all that sort of stuff, you think that is going to be something that should be a part of their game when it comes to just their offensive schematics?
I don't know if the jet motions will continue to work, but I would like them to still stick with the crossing routes. They do a lot of flat routes, 5-yard flat routes towards the sideline as well. I like those. I mean, what I think a big key in the offense, McDuffie's an all-pro corner. He has 13 pass breakups on the year. He's only allowed 450 yards on the season. No one can truly shut down A.J. Brown, but this is the best corner he's faced all year. And I think the big X factors on offense in this game are Goddard. Goddard so far in the playoffs has 15 receptions, 188 yards, and he's got a TD. But Devontae has really excelled against Steve Spagnuolo's defense. I think that's who we really have to try and feed. 7 catches for 122 yards, 7 catches for 100 yards, 6 catches for 99. He's averaging the most receiving yards per game against anyone that's ever played the Chiefs.
I'd feel a little bit more nervous if they still had L'Jarius Sneed, but they don't. I like Jalen Watson. I like Justin Reed. They have a nice secondary, but I think that them losing Legarius was a huge blow for them. And obviously he deserved to be paid the money that he ended up getting. But I'm just saying I'd be more scared of their secondary if they still had him. But I think that we have the upper hand when it comes to our wide receivers facing up against those guys. Are you afraid of Spags and his defense?
Well, I think the number one thing with Steve Spagnuolo's defense, his calling card is blitzing. Chiefs are sixth in the NFL in QB pressures with 171. They lead the league in knockdowns 73 times. Hurts cannot hold on to the ball for as long as he has on some of these plays. Like, he held on to it way too long in the Rams game, which led to 7 sacks. He's done well in the playoffs against the blitz for the most part. In the Packer game, he was 3 for 2 with 62 yards. And last week, he went 7 for 13 for 116 yards against the blitz. And then the last time they played in the Super Bowl, 11 for 15 for 91 in that game. And they blitzed him on 36% of the passes. So they blitz a lot. They're going to need to have a tight end in there as an extra blocker. And Saquon, in terms of blocking, because they have disguised a lot of their blitzes and have safeties or corners coming off the edge for the blitz. So Saquon's going to need to really hold his own in there and have the best blocking game of his life.
I think that they're going to play the box a lot. I do. I think that obviously Spags is going to try to really do whatever he can to try to limit Saquon Barkley. But I'll tell you this. I saw James Cook run against that defense. I'm sorry. You're not going to be able to stop Saquon. You're just not. You can have as many people line up in the box as humanly possible, and yet that offensive line is still going to crush you. And Saquon himself is going to try to find ways, just with his pure talent, to try to get yards. And the funny part is that some of the times I'm watching him run, I'm thinking, well, you know, they're going to like lose 3 yards. And then all of a sudden, like, he gets back to the line of scrimmage. Like, there's not a lot of running backs that can do just what he does, just from a pure talent perspective. And I think that we sort of kind of take advantage of that. I think personally he's going to get 150 yards in this game. And then we'll talk a little bit more about predictions, but this ground game that the Eagles have going, you're not going to be able to stop them. But I think if you're Kansas City's defense, what you're going to have to do is make Jalen Hurts beat you with his arm. And that, I don't know. I think that the Eagles, I've been sort of changing my mind about this as the days have gone on. I think Jalen Hurts can do that.
I do. Well, in terms of the run, it's really interesting with the Chiefs because their run defense in the regular season was very effective.
It was.
They only allowed like 102 yards per game and 4 yards per attempt. But in the playoffs, they've been abysmal. They've given up 150 to the Texans and 150 to the Bills. James Cook was averaging 6.5 yards per carry last week.
He was. I was just going to say
Saquon Barkley is not fumbling the ball like Miles Sanders did on the first drive of the game.
No,
that's not happening.
They're going to have to pray for a dropped catch.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would prefer they've got to run him outside as opposed to the middle because Chris Jones, along with being a complete force in the pass rush, he's also a very effective run stopper. And he likes to attack the gap between Juergens and Becton, which is where the Eagles like to go a lot when they run it up the middle. And with the way the O-line has been getting to the second level and trucking dudes and pancaking dudes on the outside, he has a much better chance of making a man miss outside of the hash marks as opposed to them stacking the box, which just means that more defensive players are positioned between the tackles. He has a much better chance of making them miss on the outside. And even so, he's been a very effective when teams have stacked the box, regardless.
Besides Saquon, do we think that Kenny Gainwell is going to have an effective game?
Well, I think he's still recovering from a concussion, so I don't even know if he's cleared to play.
As of this day, yeah, as of Thursday, yeah.
I don't think he's even getting a snap running the ball this game. It's all going to Saquon.
You think it's all going to Saquon?
Yeah, he's getting he's getting at least 23 plus touches. All the runs are going to Saquon. Maybe they'll use Gainwell on kickoff returns, but that's it.
Any sort of misdirection or trickery plays from the offensive play calling perspective?
Well, I think in terms of that, I would love for the personnel to create misdirections and mismatches using things like rubs where the receivers line up really close together, or picks like they did for Goddard in the Saints game when Jahan Dotson picked for him and he just had a simple crossing route over the middle and then went 60 yards, and that's what won us the game.
I remember that. I would like to see I'd like to see Jalen Hurts out there as a receiver for one of the plays. Maybe try to do another Philly special. I'm just saying. I'm just putting that out there.
I would like to see a variation of the tush push.
Yeah,
because
sure.
The Commanders couldn't stop it last week, but they were doing everything they could to delay the play. And I feel like
they also like fake the tush push in the last game, or was that against the Rams?
I believe it was against the Rams. But okay. I'd like to see some sort of variation where they I don't know, that it goes through Hurts' legs or something, and then it's Saquon's in a wildcat position and then runs to the outside, like the snap goes through Hurts' legs and goes into Saquon's hands, something, or just he gets the ball and then immediately hands it off and they have no idea, or some type of jet sweep off of it.
You know, the one person that really hasn't gone off in these playoffs is Devontae Smith. Do we see Devontae Smith catch a touchdown?
Well, I think it all comes down to what Spagnuolo decides to do in terms of, is he just going to keep McDuffie one-on-one or AJ Brown, or is he going to put McDuffie on Smith and then double AJ Brown?
Right.
That's what I'm really interested to see. But I think they're going to get at least a passing touchdown in this game.
Yeah.
So Devontae's been incredibly effective, more than anyone, against Spagnuolo as a wide receiver. So I very much could see that the ball is going to him in the red zone.
I agree with that. I also I want to look at this. I want to talk a little bit more about, just from a coaching perspective, Nick Sirianni, because I actually think that overall I have not been on the Nick Sirianni train, and I've been a very big critic of Nick Sirianni. I will tell you, though, when it comes to his decision-making on going for it or not on fourth down, everything has worked. Is there a little bit of fear when it comes to his decision-making during big moments of the game?
I think in terms of having to do with that, I think a lot of that has to do with Jake Elliott and both their confidence in him and our confidence in him.
I agree.
Because if there's a situation where it's a 45 to 50-yard field goal, but it's 4th and 5, usually they're only going for it on 4th and 2, 4th and 1. But are they going to go for it on a 4th and 5 when Elliott is that far out and he hasn't made 50-yard field goals, sometimes not even 45-yard field goals?
Yeah, like even if they're at the 30 and it's a 4th and 5, do you go for the 48-yarder? I don't know. That is a question that I do have. Just moving forward. Let's talk about Jalen, because we have really done I think that when we talk, obviously we talk a lot about how great Saquon has been, and I think that the most valuable player in this game, hear me out, is going to be that guy at QB, because we know that the best player on this team is Saquon Barkley when it comes to their offense. But Jalen Hurts is going to be maybe not more so of the MVP. Let me sort of retrace that. I think he's the X factor of this game. I do. He has not been turning the ball over that much. You've also talked about his decisions, and you talked about some of the reads that he's been able to get, throwing it more towards the sidelines rather than just utilizing the middle of the field. How much of an impact is he going to make in this game specifically, and what are you going to be looking for in regards to the keys to the game when it comes to just Jalen Hurts?
I think we're going to need to take some shots downfield. Uh, I just
I remember you
think
said that too.
think when he's there. I think when AJ or Devontae wins their route, he can't be hesitant, and he's just got to pull that thing.
Fire it, yeah.
I think they're going to have a lot of designed runs, because I mean the Rams game, he just took that thing to the house, shook off a defender that just wrapped around his ankle. I
I
mean,
remember that.
his running is as effective as ever right now. And last time we played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, he had 70 rushing yards. He killed them with his legs. I mean, I think that Super Bowl was the best game of his career, and I think he's played Spagnuolo's defense a couple of times. He's accustomed to the blitz. Teams have been blitzing him more and more, and he's been effective against it. And it just comes down to he has to do what he's been doing all season, and he cannot turn the ball over. He can't have a strip sack like last time. He doesn't throw interceptions. I don't think he's thrown an interception since October.
No.
So he's just got to keep what he's doing, protecting the ball, and he can't be hesitant. If there's a read that's open, he can't look for a read that's farther downfield. He's just got to fire that thing and be decisive. And I think last game he really was, and he was letting it rip and getting the ball out really quickly. I mean, against Chris Jones is number one in pass rush win rate. You have to get the ball out in like 2 seconds, maybe 2.5. You cannot hold on to that thing.
As great as their offensive line is, I mean, they're still going to have a hard time dealing with him because he's just an all-pro player. I mean, he's just that good. But when we talked a little bit about the passing game, obviously Jalen Hurts going to run with the football too. Are we going to see a lot of keepers from Jalen and just designed runs as well when it comes to Kellen Moore's offense?
Yeah, they love the QB draw.
Yep.
They love just snapping it to him and him just going to the outside. And then the RPO has been their biggest thing all season. The run pass option. Teams don't know what to do with it.
How do you stop it?
Yeah.
How do you stop it? If you're Kansas City, what's the mindset going into the game when you're facing that offensive line and you see Saquon Barkley on that other side?
I would be terrified if that were me. I know that's not what they're thinking, but
I knew you were going to say that. I had to ask you that.
He's just a freak. I mean, but they have really talented linebackers that can get to the outside, and they're going to hit him hard. There's a part of me that thinks they're going to play a little dirty and they're going to try and knock him out. I truly believe that. So, personally, for me, they're really going to stack the box and really try and make Jalen beat us with his arm. But I think the most effective way we can beat stacking the box is by running it to the outside and getting our linemen to the second level. But I just don't think there's any way you really can stop him. No. All these teams are game planning for is him, and he's still busting off for 200 yards, 150 yards, most runs of, I believe it's 60 or 70 plus yards in a season. There's just no answer for it. So I'm not a defensive coordinator, so I don't know the X's and O's. But I just think it's getting their linebackers involved and sending extra pass rushers.
You know what really bugs me? I've been hearing so many people say over these last couple of weeks that the Eagles, that a lot of these teams, like when you look at Baltimore and when you look at why they lost to the Bills, they stopped going away from what was working and they stopped using Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry had a very good first half in that game. If you remember last year's Super Bowl, I believe it was 49ers and Chiefs. McCaffrey was going off in the very first half, and then they just stopped running the ball. There are some people that are out there that have the fear that the Eagles are gonna do that too. I have no fear that that's even gonna happen, because if it ain't broke, why would they fix that? It's not like that they haven't been doing this throughout the entire season. Again, when it comes to just what they've been able to establish in the trenches and on the ground, the run blocking is A+. The running back himself is the best running back in the league. So why would they change anything? Literally during that whole bye week, we all heard from the Eagles locker room that they were going to change their game. They were going to change their identity, and it's worked. So I can't seem to understand or process why some of these people out there just think that, well, they're not going to be running the ball anymore. Like, when it comes to like the second half, it makes no sense.
No, because even if they don't get it working in the first half, by the second half, the defense is completely gassed.
Sure. And Saquon, honestly, his numbers are better in the second half this year. You can go look at the statistics. You could actually watch these games. He's had his biggest breakout runs in the second half of a lot of games this year.
Yeah, I believe second half he's still top 5 in rushing yards, just the second half alone.
I know. He's just an absolute beast. I also forgot to tell you that I have a Saquon animated shirt of him running in the snow. It's great. I haven't even worn that yet, but they're gonna see me wearing that on Sunday. So again, $400 I just spent out of my pocket. But I had to go all out. Let's talk a little bit more about the defensive side of the ball, because obviously this defense, I think, is the best defense in the league, and it's taken me so much to say that. And I don't think that heading into the season you would have ever thought that. But Jalen Carter, my gosh, that guy is literally Aaron Donald 2.0. And I was a little bit nervous heading into this week because I was hearing about the injury reports. And I was like, if he doesn't play, that changes a lot of things. But what type of impact does he make when you're an offense and you have to face him as an opponent?
He's just a complete game wrecker. I mean, Fletcher Cox is one of my most beloved Eagles, and in one season, he's surpassed him. I'm sorry, Fletcher, but that's just the case.
That's actually a compliment, though, to Fletcher when you really think about it, because how many guys would you pass up? Like, same thing with Shady. It's not like we're saying that Saquon is a bum. Like, Saquon legitimately is really, really good at football. So it's the same exact thing.
I mean, they're holding Jalen Carter on every play, and he is getting pressure every single time. He's forcing the quarterback to get it out earlier than they want to every single time. And it's just one simple move. It's just like this one swim move that he does, and it works every single time. Even when he's double teamed, he's just knocking these dudes over, knocking 300-pound linemen flat on their back.
It's crazy. It's absolutely wild. I think that he's going to have another big game today. Can I just say, with the way that Vic Fangio has these guys going, it's unbelievable to me. First and foremost, I mean, you lose Nakobe Dean, who was having a very good year. He was actually staying very healthy this year and was doing a great job at inside linebacker. Oren Burke steps in, no problem. Like 11 tackles in the last game.
Yeah, and he punched it out. This team is like 2017, where it's just next man up mentality. We don't care who we have in the lineup. We have dogs all over the place, and that's what it is. I mean, I personally, the biggest thing that I'm watching on the defense is how our rookies step up on the brightest stage, because Quinion and Cooper DeJean are just unbelievable, man. In the playoffs, this rookie duo, Quinion, 5 receptions allowed on 15 targets for 24 yards and 2 interceptions. Dejon, 10 receptions on 15 targets for 97 yards. I mean, these dudes are lockdown, absolute clamps as rookies. I mean, I already think Quinion's a top 10 corner in the league. I'm just curious about what matchup is going to be which. Are they putting Slay on Hopkins? And is I guess Xavier Worthy's in the slot, so is DeJean going to be on him? Right. And then is Quinion going to be on Marquise Brown? I'm just curious to see the matchups. But these dudes can ball, man, and I think one of them is going to make a very big play. Last week, DeJean, like Bond forced out the fumble, but DeJean helped rip it out.
He did.
And then on the and then on the 2-point conversion, I believe was it him that got the tackle, or it was Bond, right?
I think it was Zach Bond.
Yeah,
I think it was Zach Bond. Who's guarding Travis Kelce? How do you stop him?
That's what I'm curious about, because
that's what I'm curious about too.
Last time we played, they put safeties on him a lot. They put Marcus Epps on him on the touchdown, and he got absolutely torched. They put C.J. Gardner-Johnson on him a lot, and Travis Kelce was still getting to his spot in the middle, busting zone coverage.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see if they put a linebacker on him. If they put Bond on him, but I would rather have a safety on him, because I want Bond out there for those runs to the outside just because of his ability to punch the ball out. But if the Eagles do decide zone coverage, that's the part of the field that he's going to be guarding, is that little zone in the middle, that little stick route that Kelce runs 10 yards, and he just finds a gap in the defense.
I think that personally you're going to have to double team him, because if Zach Ertz went off on you last week and he was making a lot of wide open catches, I say last week, the last time that they played in the NFC Championship game, Travis Kelce is 10 times better than Zach Ertz right now. He's still, in my opinion, he's still a top 3 tight end.
He turns it on in the playoffs, man. Him and Mahomes just have this magic, this chemistry that they just know what the other is thinking, and he doesn't even follow his routes. He just exposes the gaps in zone coverage, and he just somehow seems to always get open in the playoffs. So,
yeah, and that brings me to my keys for this defense, because I think that the number one key, if I were to have 3 factors of what the defense needs to do, A is to hold that guy. Actually, I'm sorry. A is to make Patrick Mahomes as uncomfortable as humanly possible. B is to cover that guy, because that's his security blanket. And C, I would probably say, is to make Patrick Mahomes into a runner.
I agree that you want to keep him out of the pocket, but at the same time, he torched us with his legs in the fourth quarter of that last game. I mean, on a bad ankle.
He's also so good. He's you know what makes Patrick Mahomes so good? It's not just that he is so mobile, but he also knows how to fake people out, and he understands the game that the refs play. So he could be running. It could look like that he's going to run out of bounds, but yet he can still pass the ball. He's just that type of a magician, and he can sell calls. He's so good at doing that.
Yeah, I mean, he manipulates that roughing the passer call all the time. He runs like he's running out of bounds, and then they just push him right when he's about to run out of bounds, but it looks like he's staying in bounds. But they push him out, and they get that roughing the passer call all the time. They need to have a QB spy on him. Someone needs to watch his eyes every single play.
Say that too.
So that's probably Zach Bond.
Yep.
And I'm perfectly fine with that. I mean, another thing about the Chiefs' offense is they use a ton of motion. They use pre-snap motion like over 60% of their snaps to create mismatches. So the defense is going to have to be really disciplined and vigilant about following their assignment's overall direction and communicate with the man next to them about whose assignment is whose and how the motion adjusts the coverage.
JC, for those people that are out there that are saying, well, this defense is not as talented as 2022's, the 2022-2023 defense that the Eagles had. Explain to those people why they're just flat out wrong.
I think people only say that because that Eagles team, it was flashy in the numbers in terms of I think
they had the most sacks.
Yeah, I believe it was the most sacks all time.
It was
in a season. So I think that's the number people look at. But our secondary is so much better. Quinyon Mitchell is 10 times the player James Bradbury is. And Cooper DeJean is so much better than Avonte Maddox. Our linebackers, Kaiser White was really good and TJ Edwards were really good that year. But Zach Bond, I mean, let's give a shout out to Zach Bond, man. He's having a better season than Luke Kuechly did in his Defensive Player of the Year season. Bond is 150 tackles this year, 11 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, and a forced fumble this playoff, and interception this playoffs. Yep. He's having a better season than Luke Kuechly did, who had the best linebacker season in 15 years.
That's crazy.
So, he's robbed if he doesn't get Defensive Player of the Year.
I agree with that. And I also just think that Vic Fangio is 10 times better when it comes to being the defensive coordinator. How many times, when you looked at Jonathan Gannon's defense, how many times did he just go so soft on that coverage? He didn't blitz a lot.
Yeah, Fangio doesn't love to blitz a lot either. I believe they only do it 19% of the time.
They do.
But
he's not afraid to.
What I like about Fangio is he has his corners pressing and playing up, not giving a lot of space for them to destroy you over the middle or on slant routes and such.
That's why they lost the Super Bowl. That was one of the main reasons why they lost, in my opinion.
Yeah, they were playing way too soft, the defensive backs. So,
yeah, I don't see that happening in this game. Let's talk about their ground game with Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco. Obviously, Kareem Hunt comes back this year. It's not the same Kareem Hunt that he was back once upon a time when he was just dominating. Does this ground game scare you? Because it doesn't really scare me.
Not really. Pacheco, he runs with a lot of ferocity, but he's really taken a step back after breaking his leg. And they don't even use him as their goal line back anymore. It's Kareem Hunt. And Kareem Hunt, he doesn't have a lot of speed to him. He's more of a power back. And I don't think they're really going to be running it in the end zone anyway. I think they're going to be throwing when they get to the red zone.
I want to talk a little bit about their offensive line too. Our defensive line, I think, is going to be able to get past their O-line for the most part and put more pressure on Mahomes. But what does their offensive line do a good job at?
In terms of their offensive line, well, they made a big adjustment this year in terms of switching Joe Thuney over to, I believe he played left. Yeah, he's playing left tackle, and he used to play guard. Yep. And that's completely revamped their offensive line. During the first half of the year, they were terrible, but they've really turned it around. But it's not like it's 5 Pro Bowlers like it is on our line.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I just think, personally, my biggest key to the game, this is going to be absolute trenches warfare. That's my number one key to the game. Both teams had 10 sacks in the postseason. Their D-line is formidable. Chris Jones is the best defensive tackle in the football and led the league in pass rush win rate. Can plug up the run as well. Wharton had 7 sacks. Karlaftis had 8 and is very disruptive. Our O-line needs to play their best game and not let up like they did in the Rams game and give Jalen an opportunity to evaluate all his reads, to have time to throw and extend the play. But in my opinion, this is one of the greatest offensive lines of all time. We have absolute behemoths up front with so much strength and power, and their speed in getting to the second level and making those blocks downfield along Saquon is truly a sight to behold. Truly, it truly is. And Jeff Stoutland's just a mastermind that he will be able to counter Jones's different pass rush moves, and maybe he even will put two guys on him. I'm curious to see that. And in terms of our D-line, we just have animals and freaks all over the place. Nolan Smith's 4 sacks in the playoffs, most sacks in a playoff run. Jalen Carter leads all defensive tackles with 12 QB pressures in the playoffs.
Crazy.
2 huge sacks against the Rams. I mean, if he doesn't sack Stafford on that last play, Stafford had DeMarcus Robin and Cooper Kupp wide open on that play. If he doesn't make that sack, our season's over, and we're not talking about this game right now.
You're right. Yeah.
Josh Sweat, 8 sacks on the year. He's one of the most underrated defensive ends in the league. He's going to get paid this offseason. And Milton Williams with 6th in pass rush win rate and 2nd in pass pressure rate for defensive tackles. And Jordan Davis has just had a night and day turnaround where his speed for his size, that sack on Jaden Daniels last week was just incredible. And he just covers the gaps so well. They really can. You cannot do an inside zone when Jordan Davis is in the game because he just takes up so much space. So we've got absolute freaks on our D-line. And last time our pass rush was slipping and sliding all over the field due to how the sodding was incorrectly. And I don't see that happening here. And I think one of these guys is going to have a strip sack or punch the ball out. And we just have to force one turnover to win this game.
I
just
agree.
one. And
I'm with you on that.
The Chiefs O-line has mightily improved since the beginning of the season. They've only given up 5 sacks in the playoffs, so it will be a challenge. But we have some elite pass rushers, and it comes down to our top rushers getting to the QB, having a linebacker as a spy, watching Mahomes at all times, especially on third downs, and it's just going to be absolute trenches warfare. It's going to come down to the O-line, D-line, just like how Howie Roseman built this team.
If the game is close, do you still like our chances?
I think if there's...
Because I do. I
don't think you can give the Mahomes the ball back with a lead only by a field goal. You have to be winning. You have to be winning by 4 to 7 points.
4 to 7.
I mean, preferably a touchdown. So
it's not going to happen though because this team they'll find a way to give you a heart attack, JC. They'll find a way.
I know the Chiefs just excel in 2-minute drills, and they just can get a field goal literally within 30 seconds. So I think for me to feel comfortable, we have to be winning by like a touchdown with 3 minutes left.
I'll say that if they get the ball back with 2 minutes to go and we're up by 3, I'm nervous. And by they, meaning the Chiefs. I am nervous about that. But as much as I love our defense, for them to be able to get a stop, it's asking a lot for them. And I trust the defense, but Mahomes just scares me. He does. He still scares me to this day. And then before we play our little game, wanted to ask you a little bit about how much of a factor are the referees going to make in this game? Because we've been hearing about a lot of the calls, and we actually heard the NFL come out this week and talk about the refereeing and how ashamed they are that people think that's a factor in games and all those types of stuff. But there's been like legitimate proof at times. Like we saw Josh Allen get a first down on what was a 4th and 1, and they just got the wrong call. We've seen it so many times this year. How much of an impact is that going to make in this game?
As long as I don't see a pass interference in the 4th quarter, I'm okay. But these roughing the passer calls are egregious because they're normal plays of getting to the quarterback and hitting the quarterback, and it's not like they're getting to Mahomes 4 seconds late. They're getting to him on time, and they're still calling it. And our D line hits hard, so he's going to be knocked. He's going to be knocked on his backside. So I really hope they don't fall for him flopping and trying to sell the call. But ultimately, man, like I don't want us to let's not put it in the hands of the refs. Like let's win this game handily enough to where it doesn't come down to that. Because I want to say that we won the game because of our play and not because of it outside influences and decisions the refs have made.
I'm with you there. I would love us to win handily too, and not have to rely on things that are out of our control and that type of stuff. Andy Reid, obviously an incredible head coach, obviously calls a great offensive game. You know, everybody says that they'd be really mad to see him get another ring. I'll tell you this, I will be so mad if the Chiefs win, because then Carson Wentz gets a ring and Marlon Tupelotu gets a ring as well. And I can't fathom that. I can't have that happen, JC. I can't see Taylor Swift celebrating, in the suites just because, she's from Philadelphia and I got to see her, do the national anthem in the World Series back in 2008. I can't see her celebrating. I just can't. I'm sorry. I love you, Taylor. I'm a big fan of Taylor Swift. Some people may call me a Swiftie. I don't care. I just can't see that happen, man. Can't.
No, man. The confetti needs to rain green, bro.
I need a parade on Broad Street.
I will be depressed for months if they lose this game. I will never get over it.
No.
And I have a little extra riding on the line on this game as well, because I could bring in a lot of money if the Eagles win. I don't care about the money. I want to see a parade on Broad Street, but that's a nice added bonus. But if they win, it'll be the happiest night of my life, and I will just be crying hysterically, tears of joy.
I feel you on that. I definitely feel you on that. JC, I want to play a little game with you, okay? This is a game where we're going to look at both rosters. We're going to see the 53-man roster for each team, and we're going to say which position is better. So, for example, I think that we can all agree that Patrick Mahomes is better than Jalen Hurts. So we give advantage to the Kansas City Chiefs that way. So that's number one. So can you see this? Can you see this screen right here?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So Kareem Hunt over Saquon Barkley. I'm taking Saquon.
What are we talking about?
Obviously.
Yeah.
AJ Brown, I will take AJ over Xavier Worthy. I will take Devontae Smith over Hollywood Brown. And I'll take Juju Smith-Schuster over Jahan Dotson. Do you got me there?
Completely agree.
Okay. Travis Kelce versus Dallas Goedert. I'm going with Travis. And
I go with Travis too, but I think it's a closer gap than a lot of people.
I do too. And that's sort of where I stand. Second string tight end, Noah Gray or Grant Calcaterra? I think that they're pretty evenly matched, to be honest with you.
I would give the edge to Gray just because they use him a lot more than the Eagles do. They do a lot of 2 tight end sets.
Yes, that does make sense. They do do a lot of 2 tight end sets. I still think that Calcaterra as a blocker, though, is really good. Let's take a look at both teams' O-lines. And then I was also going to match up O-line versus D-line and do that for both teams. All right. I think that the whole entire O-line for us is just better than theirs. I will take Jordan Mailata over Joe Thuney. I will take Landon Dickerson over Mike Caliendo. Cam Jurgens is way better than Creed Humphrey over at center. Mekhi Becton, miles better than Trey. And Lane Johnson, I'll easily take him over Jawan Taylor. I'm
No
not even
debate
being
here.
biased.
No debate here.
Not even being biased. Let's talk about defense. And actually, well, okay, we'll do that a little later. This is where it gets interesting. The defenses. I think that the defenses are more evenly aligned. I personally would take George Karlaftis over Milton Williams at edge. I like Milton Williams.
That would be that matchup would be Josh Sweat, I believe, because Milton Williams is, I believe,
Oh, that's
Karlaftis
true.
is a defensive end and Williams is a defensive tackle.
That's weird because they have him listed as defensive end, but I guess that you're technically right because that's sort of because that is position list. So I'd still take George Karlaftis over him.
I think it's even. I think Josh Sweat's been excellent this year.
I think he's been excellent too, but Karlaftis, man, I don't know. Like I'm not saying that Josh Sweat's had a bad year, but George is just still George. He's been so good over on that front for them. Tershawn Wharton over Jordan Davis.
I think that would be Milton Williams because Williams gets a lot more snaps than Davis does.
Yes.
And with that, I'm giving Milton Williams the edge there. He was 6th in pass rush win rate this year. He's going to get a bag this offseason.
And then I think this is a wash. Jalen Carter versus Chris Jones. It's tough. I think that they're pretty even. I do.
I think it's even too. As disruptive as Jones is, his stats have taken a dip this year, and they're pretty much almost identical.
I know. It's wild. Mike Dunna. I guess that the other guy for us, like up front, right there, would probably be
Nolan Smith.
Yeah, I was going to say Nolan Smith.
I'm giving Nolan Smith the edge there
over Mike Dunna. I would too. Let's talk about linebackers. Zach Bond or Drew Tranquill? Zach Bond.
What are we talking about? He's the defensive player of the year.
I know. And Oren Burks over Nick Bolton. I would take Nick Bolton.
I would too.
I love what Oren Burks has done, and it's not any sort of disrespect to him, but Nick Bolton is just an all-pro.
He flies around, man. He's what won them the last Super Bowl with that touchdown on that strip sack against Jalen.
And then let's talk about Leo Chenal. I guess for us, because they play, they bring more guys up front than we do, so I guess it gets a little bit tougher for us. Who would you say that I guess that the next guy would be for us? Booker? It wouldn't be Booker.
Sorry, can you scroll down?
Yeah, sorry about that. Leo Chenal right here. And then for us, it would be let me look at our depth chart right here. Do you see our depth chart? Let's see. Let's do this one. So we got Oren Burks. I guess that's, I don't know. Maybe that's a position that we just can't compare. Oh, yeah, BG. BG.
Yeah.
Because BG's back. So then that changes things.
That does change things. I'm very curious to see how many snaps they're going to play BG and if they're possibly going to overcompensate for this being his last game. Because I don't want them to take a ton of snaps away from Nolan Smith and Josh.
I was going to ask that next because that's a next factor too.
But I do think they will put him on some crucial third downs. I would still I would still give Graham the edge just because of experience, and he's been there and had one of the biggest plays of all time with that strip sack against Brady. He
I'm
knows
with
what
you
the
there.
bright lights are there.
I'm with you there. So then I guess that yeah. See, I didn't even think about that before. But yeah, that does change a couple of things. I don't know. I still think that our defense up front is still better. And I might be being biased, but I don't think I am. Let's go to corners. All right, McDuffie or Quinion.
I'll give Trent the edge there. He's an all-pro.
Yeah, I would do that as well. Who's next? Then we got right cornerback Jalen Watson over Darius Slay. I'll give Darius Slay.
He's still doing it at 35.
He is. He's actually, honestly, I think that he's played a lot better this year, and it's because he's not the number one option anymore.
I think he's been a top 10 corner this year.
I think he's been very, very good. Justin Reed over CJ GJ. I kind of have to lean more towards that. But I don't think it's that egregious of a difference.
I would say even. CJ GG just tackles so hard, man. He's just coming down the downfield like a freight train, bro.
He does lay his blood out there on the line. That is who he is. He kind of, you know what? I'll actually make this comparison. He reminds me a little bit of Kelly Oubre.
He does the dirty work, man.
He does. And he might make some bad mistakes at times. We've seen them do that. Like, we've seen them get tossed out of the game for personal fouls and, like, all that type of stuff. But he is an energy booster when he's playing at a high level. So I'll give him that. Reed Blankenship or Brian Cook?
Reed.
Okay.
Reed for sure.
I would give it to Reed as well. Brian, I don't have the stats on me for how he's been doing this year, but it's not like I know he's had a good year. He hasn't had a bad year, but I still think that Reed is the better talent. I do. Shamari Connor or
I think that would be Cooper
DeJean.
Yeah. DeJean, baby.
Cooper.
Exciting whites, baby.
I'll take Cooper. Yeah, I will do that. Does Isaiah Rodgers get any snaps?
I only see that happening if an injury occurs.
Happens.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to throw that out there. Just wanted to see where you were at with that. And then we have to go to special teams. Jake Elliott versus Harrison Butker.
Harrison Butker. I'm very concerned about Jake Elliott. I'm very concerned.
Yeah, I am concerned too. Matt Ariza or Braden Mann at punting?
Ariza can bomb balls. He's got a leg.
Who do you think is the better holder?
Rick Lovato. He's made a couple Pro Bowls, I believe.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree with that. And punt returner, you got Cooper DeJean or Nico. I'll take. I mean, Remigio's had a pretty good year, but I'll take Cooper at punt returner.
I believe their punt returner had a very large gain against the Bills last week.
He did.
I've not
He's really
seen
good.
I've not seen DeJean bust a run for as many yards as that play went for.
That's true. Or would you take Isaiah Rodgers over Remigio? I'd take Remigio over Isaiah Rodgers. And I love Isaiah Rodgers.
Yeah,
but that's where I am. Head coaches, Nick Sirianni or Andy Reid? I'm going with Andy.
Come on,
I'm
JJ.
going with Andy.
Big Red. He's one of
And
the greatest
then
ever to do it.
defensive coordinators, Vic or Spags. I actually, and some people were getting on me about this, but I think it's actually pretty even. And I know that Spags has had the reputation, and I get it. But if we're just talking about this year, I think it's pretty evenly matched. But if I were to give somebody the slighter edge, it would have to be Spags. No bias, no cap.
I agree with that. He's been doing it for longer. He's just the best blitzer in the game, and his defense has always just seemed to be dialed in. But one stat I would like to give before we go: we're 5-0 on artificial turf, and we're only letting up 11.6 points per game on artificial turf. Only 11.6 points per game, JJ.
That is true.
So hopefully they don't screw up the sodding of the field this time.
And then,
so it's not a slip and slide.
No, I agree with that. And also, we're going to be playing in the dome, so the weather's not even going to be a factor on the turf as well, so that's going to be great. And then Matt Nagy or Kellen Moore, I'd have to lean more towards Matt Nagy as just offensive coordinator. I would still go with Matt Nagy. Where's your mind?
Yeah, I think so too. I think they have a lot more creativity in their pass concepts.
I'm with you there. So overall, you'd say that we have the better personnel.
100%.
I do too. I think that we, honestly, the only ones that we said were better than us, we had Patrick Mahomes. This is what you and I agreed on. We had Travis Kelce. Those were the only two guys on offense, and rightfully so. I said George Karlaftis over at edge. And then you said Nick Bolton as the only other. Nick Bolton and Trent McDuffie were the only two guys on defense that you think were better in their positions than our positions. And then Harrison Butker was the other one. And also Matt Ariza. So that's really six positions. That's pretty good. I like our chances when we look at it that way. But I wanted to do this little exercise with you because I think that sometimes when you just compare rosters and you look at the 53 guys and you just look at the starters, it puts things into perspective. And it makes you say, hey, we have a better team on paper. Obviously, you got to get the job done, but it still makes you realize, well, damn, I didn't really think about it from that sort of perspective. And that's why I wanted to do this exercise with you.
I agree, man. It opened up my eyes a lot. On paper, we have the much better roster, but you can't win games on paper.
No. My last thing that I wanted to do with you is look at offensive versus defensive matchups. So, obviously for our offensive line, I'm not really for our offensive line going up against their defensive line, that's really where things get interesting. I think that our defense going up against their offense is our defensive line going up against their offensive line is going to be pretty good for us. Obviously, you're still going up against Mahomes, but still, I like our chances that way. But I think that our offensive line going up against their defensive line is going to be something that I'm going to be looking forward to, just individual matchups wise. So when we look at, so I guess that Karlaftis will probably be matched up with Jordan Mailata.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I give Mailata the better end there.
Absolutely.
Dickerson versus, I guess, Tershawn Wharton, right?
Give me Dickerson all day.
Yeah. And then Chris Jones against Cam. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to place a couple doubles in there, or
Yeah.
add a tight, or add Calcaterra or Goddard in there as a blocker, as an extra blocker.
Mekhi Becton versus Mike Donna.
Becton is a behemoth, bro. He is just an absolute monster. And credit to him changing his position and Sirianni scouting that out, that he would be better at left guard than a tackle. Credit to them for eyeing that out, because he's really completely revamped his career. A lot of people thought he was a complete bust with the Jets.
And I think that we're going to get Lane versus Drew Tranquil a lot of the times. I know that they have more linebackers, and that's like what they're looked upon as, but I think that that's going to be the matchup that they're going to probably try to go for. Or they'll probably switch it up and put Nick Bolton over there some of the time too, but I still like Lane Johnson, man.
They do like to put Chris Jones on the outside sometimes and put him at defensive end. So
fair enough.
I'm very excited for that matchup, because that's two Hall of Famers going at it.
Yeah. I'm telling you, like, just watching, like, we don't even have to see Jalen Hurts like have the ball. I just want to see those guys just fighting it out against each other. I think that that's just a wild matchup.
Trenches warfare, man. I love it.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then I want to just wrap things up and talk about our final score predictions. I mean, we got to go out with a bang. So before we actually get into final score predictions, what is something that you think is going to happen in this game that nobody is talking about? For example, I think that what's going to happen in this game, I know a lot of people are talking about this. I do think that Brandon Graham is going to get a sack. I do. But I also believe, and I'm going to go with this statement here, I think that Cooper DeJean is going to get a pick.
Oh my God. That's storybook stuff right there. That's what you write in the fantasy book.
All of Mahomes.
Oh my God, I would be so ecstatic for him.
Yeah.
I truly think everyone underestimates Jalen's arm, and he's going to throw a 50-yard bomb.
I like the sound of that.
To Devontae, I believe.
To Devontae?
Yeah.
Not even the age. Wow.
Devontae can go up and get those jump balls, man.
I know he can. Oba JJ, he's best when he's running the slant routes. No, he's not. Put him deep, man. Put him downfield, and I think that we can make something happen.
Yeah.
Rushing yards for Saquon. I think that we have to talk about that. I'm going to go with I think I said 150 before. I'll say I'll actually go up a little bit more, and I'll say $175.
I was going to say the same exact thing. You read my mind.
And I'll add in there 3 touchdowns. He'll get another hat trick.
You think 3?
I do.
I don't think 3, because I think there's going to be some push situations.
Okay.
I think he's at least getting 1.
Okay.
And very likely 2, but I don't know about 3.
Interesting.
One question I wanted to ask you before we go. Does the news about Kellen Moore working on recruiting his staff concern you? Schefter earlier in the week, he said the Saints are doing everything they can to avoid a Jonathan Gannon situation with the tampering. So I guess they're avoiding doing a final interview and an official hire because they're worried about losing picks like the Cardinals did because of the Gannon situation.
It is so stupid how they have those rules in place. It's like, you know what I compare it to? It's like when an NBA player wins the MVP and they announce it right before a playoff game. It's a distraction. It really is. I will never forget Joel Embiid winning the MVP right before they played against the Knicks or whoever it was.
No,
I think it was a couple of years ago.
against
Yeah,
Boston.
it was against Boston. And I thought that was such a distraction. And I saw, Arthur Cole out there and all that type of stuff. Like, yes, as a player, you have to be able to lock in and you got to be able to compartmentalize. But it's just not a good look. It's not a good PR look at all whatsoever. And I feel that same way in regards to just how they conduct interviews, how they can still conduct interviews when teams are still fighting for a chance to win the Lombardi Trophy. But that's just my little spiel about that. But no, keep going with your question. You're asking about, his coordinators and his whole team, right?
Well, he's just trying to acquire a staff, and I just think that's so inappropriate. Like, do you not care about winning a ring? Like, you're not winning a ring with the Saints anytime soon. Probably not ever. So I will want his head on a stick if our route concepts are messy and the defense is picking up the coverage and we're not creating separation on our routes.
Yeah, I mean the number one thing is you got to focus on the game. Right? Like, that's even just from a resume perspective, you got to focus on the game. So if he's not focused on this game here, and if I watch them coming out flat and just wetting the bed, I think that absolutely has to tarnish his legacy. And it's going to be like a footprint on, how he is as a coach moving forward. But just first of all, for them to be able to even just have those conversations, I think that's really sad. And for the team that he wants to bring together, I don't know specifically who specifically does he want on this team. Do you know?
I have no idea, nor do I care.
Okay. Then there you go. But I just don't think that these conversations should be happening right now. And that's just me personally.
Not at all.
You also wanted to ask me a little bit about my thoughts about Nick Sirianni, correct?
Yeah, man, I think that's a good way to end it. Because have your thoughts changed at all?
Oh wait, hold up. Before we get into that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I wanted to ask your final score predictions.
Oh yes, final score predictions.
Yes.
I will go 35-31 Birds. EAGLES Eagles!
Oh man, I had a little voice crack there. That was bad. 35-31. Wow. I said Saquon was going to get 3 tutties. I think that we actually win. My final score prediction is 41. And fill it in.
41-33. A repeat of last time. Okay.
The NFL, the script writers have to have something. Am I right?
That would be astonishing, man.
41-33. That's my final score prediction.
I love it.
I'm going to stick with that. So, yeah, and now back to the whole Nick Sirianni thing. Have my thoughts changed about Nick Sirianni? I will actually say this. Let me ask it to you this way, and then I'll answer your question. If Nick Sirianni wins a Super Bowl, is he the best coach in Eagles franchise history? I think it's a fair question.
I would say the statistics say so. Highest winning percentage among active head coaches, 53-23 record, made the playoffs all 4 seasons. Only one of 2 coaches to lead a team to multiple 14-plus win seasons in their first 4 seasons, and the youngest head coach all time to coach in a second Super Bowl.
I think he will be more beloved than Doug Peterson. And it's no disrespect to Doug Peterson. I love Doug. EP. But I think that he will get more love. Have my thoughts actually changed about Nick Sirianni? The answer to that question is really just a flat out no. However, I have seen some more maturity from his end, And I think that he's been able to sort of hold his composure a little bit more as these playoffs are going. He's a player's coach. He is. Like he's the type of guy when things are going really well, everybody gets on him and he's there. He's like Rob Thompson. He really is. Him and Rob Thompson are very identical. When it comes to schematics, when it comes to offensive play calling and all that type of stuff, no. And so I still think that he's a puppet. I still don't like some of his goofiness that he brings. But you know what? If it works and if they're winning, I don't care what type of goofiness he brings. Get me that Lombardi trophy. So I don't really think that a lot has changed with Nick Sirianni. I do, though. I'll say this. Did I believe that Nick Sirianni was at the forefront of changing the Eagles' offensive identity? I think he was part of that decision.
I agree, man. I think he's dialed back on some of the iffy fourth down calls where they were going for it on 4th and 6 at when Elliott was in field goal range.
Yep.
They seem to have fixed their issues of scoring in the first quarter.
Yep.
And I think the true measure of a great head coach is how much his team loves him and rides for him and their loyalty towards him. Jason Kelce said on a multitude of occasions he runs the best team meetings of any coach he's had. And he's had Andy Reid and Doug Peterson as his coaches. Saquon says his quote, "You can't be great without the greatness of others." That's an absolute bar. I love that he leads with that in team meetings. And you see Gardner Johnson crying on his shoulder on the sidelines, and AJ and Smitty dumping Gatorade on him, and every interview by the players, you can feel their loyalty to this man, and I think that's the true signal of a great head coach is how much their players love him.
It's interesting because when you really think about it, you think about some of these other greats. I also think that when you look at Sean McVay, that's part of the reason why he's so loved. Like when you actually sit back and you really do think about it, it's interesting. It really is.
For sure.
JC, as always, a pleasure to have you on here. You know, last thing I want to ask you before you get going, the plans for 6:30.
Plans for 6:30. I'm going over to my boy Matt Seitz's house. We're going to watch at his crib.
Nice.
Going to dance along to the halftime show. And then the goal is to meet my boy JJ in Philly and celebrate on Broad Street in front of City Hall.
We'll be vlogging. We will be vlogging. That's for sure.
I think that's what's going to happen. I can't wait for that.
I can't wait for that either, man. Thank you so much for coming on here as always. And guys, that's going to wrap up this little Super Bowl 59 predictions interview with my boy JC. And I will catch you all very, very soon because we'll be back on for the Eagles game. Let's go.
Go Birds.